Hey everyone, welcome back to a writing test series, and today we have a brand new question from this week. Many young people say that mobile phones are the most important object that they own. Does the popularity of mobile phones amongst young people have more advantages or disadvantages? So just like last week's, this one is also an advantage-disadvantage essay. Of course, these tend to be pretty straightforward. You do need to decide what you think. If you think this is largely good, or if you think this is largely not so good, and depending on that, your first paragraph and your second paragraph can be different. The order of the paragraphs will not always be the same. This depends on your opinion. So I personally think it's pretty beneficial. I mean, I grew up with mobile phones, so I mean, yeah, of course, like with everything, it has its pros and cons, but overall, it's, I think, a pretty good thing. So I'm going to start with the disadvantages first, and as always, I put down my main idea. So main idea 1, ideas 1, 2, 3, and then main idea 2, ideas 1, 2, 3. Okay. Alright, now my first sentence is going to be about how this may appear to be somewhat disadvantaged. Obviously, constant, access, or I don't like this font, let me change that. Okay, so constant access to cell phones does present a few issues, right? And then I'm going to start with however. So however, they offer a lot of value to people in their daily lives, like immense value. Just imagine 20 years ago cell phones existed, but you had those huge cell phones that looked like a brick. They were not portable at all, and they could only call people, that's it. But nowadays you have smartphones. They do so much that you may not even need a computer, right? So yeah, obviously they're great. So let's write down the disadvantages. I think one thing is, of course, there are emissions, radiation, etc. You do have a certain health risk when it comes to constantly being around a cell phone, or really any kind of electronic item, I think. But if you've ever noticed, when you buy a phone, it comes with a booklet, and they have a certain number, like I don't remember exactly what it is, but there is a certain, like, per head it releases a certain amount of radiation. It's a small amount, but over time it can compound, right? So there are some health risks. There are not major, but it can add up. If you always have your phone on your body, that can be a problem. Also, we're expected to always be reachable, right? Like maybe 20 years ago that was not the case. You understood that, okay, maybe someone's busy, but now we think, hey, it's 2022, everybody has their phone with them all the time, so why are they not replying to my message? Why are they not replying to my phone call, right? We have that expectation nowadays, which is, of course, it's not healthy. You shouldn't have to be 24/7 reachable, especially with employers. Imagine your boss messages you and you don't respond and they're going to think, well, why is this person not responding? You may, of course, have your own boundaries, which is healthy, but then other people don't understand that. And what else? I think I'll just leave this one for now because I have some really good ideas. They're great for emergencies, especially if you're a young person, right? Just imagine, 20, 25 years ago when cell phones were not common or popular or affordable. What would people do if they were stranded somewhere, or if they were in a life or death situation, right? Nowadays it's so easy. So many lives have possibly been saved because of cell phones. Also, access to technology. You don't necessarily need a computer nowadays. Smartphones are so powerful, right? So you have easy access. You have easy access to information. What else could I add? You could potentially also add something like, of course, we have access to information, but other than that, we could maybe think about any other benefits that could, potentially exist. Maybe you could talk about building connections with people, right? I mean, if you have a cell phone, you have, of course, most cell phones have the internet nowadays, so it's easy to build connections. But I think that has more to do with the internet. But then again, having a smartphone and having and internet connection, they're almost synonymous with each other nowadays anyway. So is it a good thing? It has more to do with the internet, so I'm not very sure about this idea. Maybe I can change it to something else. But of course, you can build connections. As long as you have a phone, you're reachable, you can talk to people, you can get in touch with them. I mean, imagine you didn't have a cell phone, right? Then staying connected would be quite difficult, especially, to people who live far away. Let's say your friends or family live far away. Even if you had like a basic cell phone, no internet, right? That would still be useful, right? Like 15 years ago, you didn't really have internet on your cell phone, but it still helped. It was still super useful. And unlike a landline, you have freedom of movement, right? Now let me just write a small disadvantage here. I could write, let me see, I already have health risks. Okay, I have expectation. I think it's also not good for your mental health, maybe, because you're like overexposed to technology, and it's the whole, every time you get a message, every time you get like a phone call, right? It's like you get like this surge of dopamine, like, oh yes, there's something exciting, right? So I think it really plays with your mental health when you constantly are around, like your cell phone. I'm just gonna pause for a little bit. I'll be back in about a minute. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. So yeah, I think mental health is a good idea. Of course, it gets a little bit sciencey when I talk about dopamine and stuff like that. But yeah, this works fine. See, if you can explain it, then that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay. Great. Now we're going to write our introduction. So many young people say that mobile phones are the most important object they own. Okay. Well, first we had cellular phones, and then we had smartphones. So, I mean, of course, your mobile phone is just a catch-all term. It refers to simple phones as well as smartphones. And of course, pretty much every phone sold nowadays is a smartphone. So I think you can, of course, use the term smartphones. There's, nothing wrong with that. I could just say that before the advent of, or maybe that would be too much information. You want to keep your introduction, to the point, short, direct. I'll probably say that yeah, I could probably say smartphones have really revolutionized the world, right? By bringing people together and enabling access to useful technology. Bringing people together. Okay, that's good enough. And then you will just have to write your opinion sentence. So, despite the few issues or few problems that regular use of smartphones or phones, mobile phones, cellular phones. So, despite the few problems that regular use of phones may, few problems that regular use of phones may present, they offer a wide range of benefits that cannot be ignored or cannot be downplayed, maybe something like that, right? And that's good, short and sweet, direct and to the point. That's 38 words, a bit on the shorter side actually. I don't like that. Your introduction should never be less than 45ish words, because that's a little bit on the lower end. So yeah, you want to be careful about that. Okay, maybe and are an incredibly common possession amongst young people, and have become, rather. There we go. Now that's better. Then I have my main idea sentence, so I'm just going to copy that, put that over here, and you should always look at your ideas and check if they need to be rearranged, right? So let's see. I think health risks maybe could be over there. Yeah, because again, they're not, I mean, it's not very well researched, so it's kind of still not very, you know, like popular, but we all know that, you know, there's the expectation you have a mobile phone, why can't I reach you, right? Emergencies, access to info, that's good. Okay, maybe we'll put build connections first, because I think that's really important. Even if you have, you know, like a normal dumb phone and not a smartphone, that still works. It's still the same thing. Okay, so one of the biggest issues, right? One of the biggest concerns is that due to the popularity of, you know, cell phones. Oh, okay. Smartphones, or you can just say due to their immense, you know, popularity. Everyone is expected to have one, right? If you don't have a phone, if you decide that, hey, I don't need a phone, like for example, I don't really use my phone a whole lot. I just use it for calling people, messaging people, and WhatsApp, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I find that my computer is more useful to me than a cell phone, and if I could, you know, like not need a cell phone, I'd be perfectly okay. But, you know, you're expected to have a phone, and you're expected to be reachable. So one of the biggest concerns is that due to their immense popularity, everyone is expected to own one, right? And is then also required to be easy to access, right? To be easy to reach via phone call, chat, or text message. As a result of this, it's difficult to maintain boundaries. It is difficult to maintain healthy boundaries. Especially, like, you know, when you're considering a relationship between, you know, the boss or supervisor and employees, right? Or even just people you don't necessarily want to talk to 24/7. People have ridiculous expectations. Others to, you know, quickly respond, right? If somebody doesn't quickly respond, you think, what's wrong with this person? In conjunction with this, there's also the issue of, you know, mental health issues, because you're constantly when you have a phone, you are constantly looking at, you know, let's say Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You get, like, it's almost like you're bombarded with information, and it can be difficult to remain objective, and you also kind of, you know, compare yourself because you have, but I think that's really more to do with social media. I feel like it's kind of, you know, going into social media territory. So maybe I will refine this idea, possibly. I think it would be a good idea to maybe change the mental health thing, possibly. Let's see. If I could change that to something else, I think it would even look better. Let's see. Maybe it makes you distracted. I think that's a really common thing, because, you know, you always have your phone. You're always thinking, oh, did somebody text me? Did somebody message me? So I think also kind of, you know, it's a waste of time when you, you know, you're constantly looking to chat up someone or call. So I think I'll put that one in. It's a distraction and a waste of time. Can be. So one of the biggest concerns is due to their immense popularity. Okay. They can also, when people spend, you know, so much time on their phones, they may be spending less time, right, on things that are more important. For example, their work, right? I mean, lots of people, like even when they're at work, they're busy with their phone, right? It's such a common trope. So their work or their studies. Due to which, when people spend so much time on their phones, they may spend less time on things that are more important, due to which their performance may suffer. Right, there we go. I didn't talk about distraction, but it's kind of implied there, so I don't have to explicitly state that. A last pointer at this stage could be health risks, even though I would like to state that it's not like very well researched, right? Although it's not very well researched, there is, also a growing concern about the health risks you face from radiation exposure. So there are also growing concerns about the buildup which, although not very deeply studied at this stage, may be responsible for causing, various cancers, right? Especially because most people, almost always have their phone on their body, literally, in a pocket, right, close to their bodies. Especially when you talk, right? When you talk to someone on the phone, that's why people always say that, okay, you shouldn't hold your headset to your ear. You should connect, headphones. That's better that way. You have less contact with your phone. There we go. And build up responsible. There we go. And finally, last, I could say here that let me see, constant access. Okay. Exposure to, I've already said, okay, access or availability or easy availability, regular, use of cell phones may cause certain problems. That's it. So keep it simple. And then I have my next main idea, so I'm going to take that. Most importantly, I would say maybe well, the fact have made it possible. Like, let's say that someone's injured, you can quickly call the emergency service, even if you're not at home, right? If you see someone, let's say you see like a car crash or something, you can easily call the cops. You can easily call the ambulance. You don't have to go somewhere where there's a landline, right? That was the situation 25 years ago. The most important factor here is the fact that cell phones have made it possible for people to quickly get help. In an emergency, even if it's not like, let's say if you're being abducted or something, right? You can just you don't even have to click on the number 100101911, whatever it is. You can just you don't even have to, the other person wouldn't know. You can just click on a power button twice or thrice and it sends out your location or calls the emergency number. I've actually done it myself because I'm a very heavy sleeper and so when I try and shut off my alarm, I just very quickly I just press the buttons. I'm like, oh, let this and I want this alarm to stop. And what happens is I have my entire call history and I've called the emergency number so many times. It's but thankfully it never connects because you have to press a number or something. Anyway, I went too deep into that. But it's so useful, right? You don't even have to make an actual phone call. You don't have to let the other person know if you're in a situation where you're being abducted or harmed, injured or whatever, right? Super useful. They probably save so many lives. Cell phones have made it possible to have an emergency, whether an accident has taken place, or whether someone is being abducted, for example. It is now possible to reach emergency services or to get help. It's not possible to alert the authorities without, having to search for a landline, right? Like imagine being stuck somewhere where maybe you're driving and you get a flat tire and it's like you don't have anything but trees everywhere around you. What are you going to do? You can just call someone, right? That's so useful. Of course, GPS also has a lot to do with it. But anyway, it's all the same thing essentially. So we've got emergencies and then building connections. Another valuable, I would say, addition is that phones are responsible for helping us people stay connected to others in their lives. No matter how far away they may be, which is, especially important when someone, travels for work or studies, travels or, moves to another place. It is possible to remain in touch with people. I've already said, okay, remain in touch with people even if you don't see them. Even if one does not see them in real life, right? And this is like true even before smartphones, were related to internet usage. Finally, we have access to information. Yet another crucial aspect is the easy availability of technology and information through the use of a phone, right? There are so many apps, you don't even need a computer. If you want to edit a picture, you can just download this app and that app. If you want to order food, you can just download this app and that app. In fact, a lot of websites don't allow you to order food unless you download their app, which is really weird. Okay, so crucial technology and information through the use of a phone, as it is incredibly easy to perform a range of tasks without needing another person's help, or without needing another person's help or a computer's help. One can simply download a range of applications for whatever they would like to do, from ordering food to let's say editing photos, editing videos even, right? Phones are powerful these days. That's it. So hence, if people were to abandon using something, maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe I could just keep it simple. If people were to appreciate the value, not really. I think that's a bit too much. Phones do provide a lot of value. Do positively affect of human life. There we go. And finally, our conclusion. So, in conclusion, it is evident that despite, I think I've used despite. Okay, so I just want to keep things a little bit fresh and a little bit different. You can see that these two body paragraphs are kind of lopsided. I don't like that. It's not a big deal though, but I don't like it. So maybe I could just say the most important factor here is that cell phones have made it possible for people to quickly get help, whether it's an accident or an abduction, whether in an accident or an abduction. There we go. Same meaning, and now it looks much better. There we go. Okay, so I've used despite. Maybe I'll use although, right? So although phones do need to be used with care due to a few negative impacts, or maybe a few side effects. On the whole, they offer much um, benefit to people, and our lives are better off for it. Right? Generally, phones have improved the quality of human life, right? And the quality of our lives has improved, or something like that, right? If people just blindly hate on cell phones, I don't think it's fair, right? As long as you use things, moderation, it's all fine. So if people, are wary of using phones, they ought to simply, use them in a what's that? In moderation. If people are still wary of using phones, they ought to simply use them in moderation to ensure no harm comes to them. That's it. Simple. There we go. Let's see. It looks kind of small. I don't know why. Okay, it's 63 words. Okay, why does it look small? Okay, there we have it. That's our first body paragraph. This is the introduction. There we have the first body paragraph. You can click on the pause button if you want to read it. Then we have the next body paragraph, and we have the conclusion. And let's do a final word count check. That's 440. Okay, that's kind of the average for me. There we go. That was fun. I'll see you next week with another question. Hopefully not an disadvantage one. But well, it depends on what they ask, right? Okay, well, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.